Good morning. My computer's running a little bit weird today. I'm suspicious of what's happening. I don't know. I'm also just tired. I am definitely tired. It's just a question of, am I just tired? Or am I tired in addition to other suspicious things? I'm not sure. I am tired though. Great session of so many levels last night. It was a lot of fun. It was a good one. I was a little bit worried about this particular session just because the party was entering a big city. And so for several sessions in a row, they were kind of just on the road, traveling. And they knew where they were going, and they might have little side tracks, but they know the plan, and there it is. And so this was them arriving and having to figure out what is the next step, and meeting a whole bunch of new characters and getting answers to some of the questions and figuring out what the new questions are and all of that sort of thing. And there was all sorts of, I had to try to account for what might happen for all different sorts of things. It's like, well, what if they decide they don't like this character or they don't trust him just because of some quirk of the way I said the line when I was speaking as that character? Or it's like, are they going to trust this person or are they going to not trust that person? And there's just so many moving pieces that I was a little bit anxious about it, but I think it went pretty well. I think it's in dungeon master circles, there's always a discussion of what they call railroading, which would be forcing the party to go down a certain path. And that's something that I think most game masters or dungeon masters are always trying to be a little bit wary of, because on the one hand, you don't want to railroad the players because that's kind of a not fun thing. It's kind of starts being like, well, you're just telling your own story. It's not really a game at that point. But at the same time, you generally want to try, in order to build any kind of a narrative momentum, you kind of want it to not be total random action. So it's kind of like a situation where you give them a nice path to follow, and if they follow it, then great. But you always have to be prepared for them to zig when you expected them to zag, so to speak. And but it was good. So things went more or less like my sort of A plan last night. But there's still just a lot of moving pieces, and so it was fun, and I think they had fun too. And it was we got to end on a really fun sort of cliffhangery note, and no combat. And in fact, I think in the whole session, we might have even only done like 2 rolls. So like not even, so not a lot of combat, and really only 1 or 2 places where we even had anyone roll dice. But that's all right. It was that's kind of just the spot in the story we're at, is a lot of talking necessary. Anyway, so I'm getting ready to go on my trip, flying out tomorrow, which means that tonight I have to do all of my packing, and I have to drop Luna off at the kennel after work. And I'm feeling a little bit like underprepared. I'm not as far along in organizing or planning things as I feel like I ought to be. I think there's time. I mean, of course there's time. I mean, I'll get it done one way or the other. But I do have a lot to do still. And so just trying not to get hung up on the parts that I'm going to do later to the point where I don't effectively do the parts that I need to do now. Things need to happen in a certain order, and so I'm going to try to not stress too much about step 17 when I'm on step 3. It just reminds me of a line from Apollo 13. But there's no problem, Houston. We're good. But yeah, I'm super looking forward to this trip. I'm a little preemptively sad for having to have Luna at the kennel because I miss her. She always does fine, but I miss her, and so that's the only like sad note of any trip that I take. And I'm really looking forward to the trip. It's going to be so much fun. And yet, right now is the part where I'm like, but my puppy. Hmm. Anyway, I've got to finish getting ready for work. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow for 5 more minutes.